This video is titled Your Most Important Spiritual Tool. My goal for you is to have you fully living from your enlightened soul and divine presence all the time. That is why I'm making my videos. So think about this. What would happen to your life if your complete orientation to life were fully absorbed in the light of your enlightened soul consciousness? So that your daily choices and decisions all came from a place of connection with your soul and divine presence. So that what you think, what you say, how you love, what you do, what choices you make, and everything else you do are all from under the inner guidance of your higher awareness of your higher self or soul. In fact, you can even go beyond guidance to fully operating from your soul. What I refer to as your soul is not your personality, although it does affect your personality. Your soul is your unique spark of divine light, and it always expresses divine will. And that is what the phrase I am that I am means. The true you, beneath all your subpersonalities and identities, is your expression of the source of all, or what we call God. Now, what if your connection were so deep that there was no difference between you and that God defined presence? How would your life be different? Well, I'll tell you. First of all, who and what you think of as you would be a divine self, the God presence, an enlightened soul. And secondly, you'd be living in integrity and in truth all the time. Third, negative ego would disappear. Fourth, there would be only one voice within you, and that would be the voice of your divine source or your soul. Fifth, you'd be fully in deep love every moment of every day. Sixth, your life would work because your identities would be surrendered and you would be living in what I call universal harmony. Now, I'd say that should be plenty of motivation. And all you have to do is surrender everything that you're attached to and everything that you believe. Surrender simply means letting go of all resistance and holding on to whatever is keeping you in limitation or in struggling or in pain. I've called surrender the golden key to enlightenment. So it's very important that you understand what it is and how to do it. In fact, chapter 16 of my handbook for enlightenment explains in the most effective way that I have found for doing this. It contains what I call my big surrender list that once mastered will elevate your consciousness to enlightened levels. The more you do this, the easier and more automatic it becomes. So even though it might seem to require that you engage in practices, eventually you no longer need to work so diligently at it. This comes about by spending time every day becoming aware, becoming conscious, becoming awake, feeling your connection to your higher self, your higher existence, and continually deepening into that surrender. So the way you do this is you keep checking in with yourself through the day. And I'll tell you the way I did it. I used what was called an integral timer. I kept it in my pocket. You can buy them easily online and they're not very expensive. And I set it to vibrate every hour. At that time, when it would vibrate, I would stop what I'm doing and I would ask myself, am I soul connected? Have I been living the previous hour from that divine connection? You see, if you don't do this frequently, you're going to find that you begin operating through the day from your mind, from the analytical mind, from the reasoning, deductive mind, the ego operated mind. You see, you either operate through the mind or through the soul or God self or God presence. This practice that I'm describing for you will automatically make you much more mindful, and you'll be able to space out the vibration reminders maybe to 2 hours or 3 hours. And eventually, you're going to realize that you are always there automatically. When you are deeply surrendered, your whole inner being becomes luminous from head to toe. Literally. There's scriptures in the Bible that say you are the light of the world. And everybody thinks that's a metaphor, which I guess it is in a way, but it's also literal. The more that you are surrendered, the brighter the literal light is that your energy field radiates, because more of the soul is able to come through. As you surrender your mind and you open your heart, a white light begins to weave through your energy centers, through all the chakras, and it goes through your whole being. This is the highest enlightened awareness of your soul. I call this the miraculous light because it is a healing and transformational presence. I think it's probably very similar to what is referred to as the Holy Spirit. It's intelligent, it's your inner guide, and it is reflective of your true self. And as you carry that light in your brain, in your mind, and in your body, you will begin filling with white light. It's a very pure, very brilliant light. And there will automatically be a reverence in every thought, so that every thought is of deep respect for all creation and deep politeness toward all. And you will experience deep peace. So the same words can come from at least two different places within you. One comes from what is called duality and separation, and the other comes from a recognition of a deeper underlying truth. One comes from gray mind, which is the common everyday human mind, and the other comes from a deep level of illumination and inspiration. Each also comes from differing archetypes, which drive the individual. One is self-centered. The other is universally centered. It comes from a state of complete surrender. So there are two vastly differing ways to meet and experience life. Now, before I go further, I want you to know there are many different lights. I've seen beings appear in a white light, but it was a dull light, and the beings were masquerading as enlightened beings. I've also seen a creamy white light associated with some spiritual organizations and some spiritual paths. And these paths even had a feeling of bliss associated with them. But they were not the white light of enlightenment. They were much lesser lights. There's also an illusory white light. It's very bright and glaring. The pure white light of enlightenment is very pure and somewhat translucent or almost transparent. The illusory light can also have voices telling you what to do and what to believe. And they might appear to come from some master or even God, but they're illusions. They do not take you to enlightenment. They divert you away, and many people are unwittingly caught by them. If what you're getting is giving you moralistic judgments and doctrines, that's not coming from the white light of enlightenment. If what you're getting are do's and don'ts, shoulds and musts, rules and required rituals, they are not coming from the light of enlightenment. If what you're getting includes codified beliefs or any manipulation or control, that also is not coming from the white light of enlightenment. Now, a lot of this can be delivered by very sincere people in a very subtle and non-threatening manner. And it could be said with very sweet and gentle tones. But if you hear something that is not simple and it doesn't quite sound right to you, it probably isn't. Most people parrot information that they've heard others say, or maybe what they've read. And they can sound very knowledgeable and they can even sound enlightened because they have the words and the language. and the terms. So here's what you'll notice. You will find that truly enlightened people are in agreement with what they say and what they believe, even though their backgrounds might seem to be very different. Furthermore, the higher levels of enlightenment are not likely to be associated with religious movements because all religions are a tapestry of myths. You know what a myth is? Myths are composed of arbitrary judgments, stories, and perceptions. You can just look it up in Webster's dictionary. A myth is an invented story or idea or unproved belief accepted uncritically and used to justify an action. The ideologies on this planet are like a tangled web of myths, and it's very easy to get sucked into them because you want so much to believe what you hear. Now, here's one thing that you can do when you hear something. First, connect with your heart and your soul. Place a hand over the center of your chest. And then you can repeat a sacred name, a word, or a phrase. This helps you connect with the divine element. It helps you connect with God. Take a few minutes. Make your connections until you feel the presence of the soul and divine light and guidance. And that usually feels like a warm, inner glowing presence, or sometimes like a slight vibration. But it's a presence. You know, like if someone's standing next to you and your eyes are shut, you can sense them present near you. You feel their presence. Well, when you're connected with the divine, you feel a presence. Secondly, take a thought or belief that you're wondering about and put it into the light, into that pure white light of the soul, and see what happens to it. In other words, you can project light all around your thought or belief. And to help you visualize that, you can use a golden light. That works really well. Now, third, if it becomes clearer or expanded, then you know you're on the right track. If it contracts, becomes harder, more dense, or smaller, or it even dissolves, then you'll know that that thought, that teaching, that belief was an illusion. Now, this is something you might have to practice to get good at it. Whenever you hear someone talking about spiritual matters, 90% of the time they're speaking from their mind and they're entertaining it as projection and analysis. They're not speaking from their divine presence. Listen to the words, take what is said, bring it into that divine presence, fill it with golden light, and see what happens. You can also do this with spiritual teachers. You can connect with your soul and divine presence, then shine golden light on them and bring them into that presence, and then observe what happens. Now, sometimes you'll find they contract, they struggle, or they fight with their mind because you see, they're caught in an illusion of a mythology, which does not hold up in the divine light of the highest enlightened awareness of the soul. Sometimes, even with your best intentions, things don't go the way you would have chosen. Sometimes you have challenges. But when you are operating from your God presence, from that divine aspect that lives in you, you can call it Christ consciousness. You are surrendered and you accept where you are in that moment. Before you can enter deeper states of consciousness connection, you may find that you go through periods of time when you may not have a lot of abundance. You might not have a lot of love. You might feel disempowered, or the flow in your life seems to be blocked. This is just where you are at that moment. It's like a plateau. But as you practice surrendering from that state, you'll move deeper into your spiritual connections. And then you will move out of those struggles or limitations. Then there are other times when you feel like you're more in a flow. You experience more beauty and lots of love. lots of abundance, and you're also surrendered to that. You accept that state, which then takes you to a new place, ever unfolding, greater fulfillment as that light radiates from you, through you, and around you. Now, you might well be saying, I don't want to be in pain or lack or restriction in money or love. Well, of course you don't. But that might be where you are in that particular moment on your path that is taking you to a higher state. And if you successfully surrender yourself in that state, from that state, then you will automatically move upward to another state that is more refined, has more blessings, more love, and more prosperity in every way. And on our evolution goes. You can meet life with surrender or resistance. Those are your two choices. So you see how simple it is? You either operate through your mind or divine presence or soul. Surrender or resistance. It is your choice.